Hey, what's up, people? It's your Radio Love, Deja Vu. We are here on the show. And you know, we always have your favorite celeb stopping by. Today, not only is he one of our favorite celebs, he's one of our favorite pastors, investors, social mover out there. We're talking Pastor Toure Roberts with his new book, Knowing. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Listen, we are excited to have you in here. Now, we know this is what? Book number 3, number 4?
It's number 4.
Wow. What was different about this time versus the other times?
What I've learned more. And then I learned also what the through line was through all the other books. And so if there was like one book I had to leave you with, although the other ones were great bestsellers, it would be this one.
Knowing. All right, so talking about knowing, what is that? Is it like just a still presence inside of you? What is knowing?
Knowing is a number of things. The subtitle is The Journey to Certainty in an Uncertain World. Everything is unpredictable. It's chaotic.
It is.
And let's be honest, it's affecting us more than we think. We keep pressing on, but the brain wasn't wired to have this much unpredictability. So knowing is a settledness. It's a confidence in the midst of all of that so that you can keep not only surviving, but to thrive in the midst of all that cray-cray.
What was the impetus for writing this one right now?
Every time I write a book, I have sermons, I have podcasts, I have various things. When I write a book, it has to, 1, speak to where people are, and then 2, be a journey to true transformation. I'm not just trying to inspire you. By the time you finish reading, it needs to be impactful. Everybody is struggling with uncertainty right now. Should I take this job? Should I leave? Should I start the business?
What's going to happen with our jobs?
What's going to happen? Yes, exactly, with AI and everything. And so I always want to write a book that fits into the times that we're in and ministers to people, pushes them through, because we are supposed to thrive, not just barely get by, no matter what's going on around us.
Listen, it's hard out here. That's why we have an instruction manual like this. What are some of the points that you want us to take away?
There's several. One, we have this thing within us called, I call it in the book, our knower. We have a faculty, an inner faculty that will ground us, that will settle us, and that will also be a guide. A lot of people are stuck in what we call paralysis by analysis. They want to go, but they're, wait, should it be this? Should it be that?
And you get stuck in your head with that too, and then end up not doing anything.
Exactly. Which is crazy. Or you do something and it's the wrong thing because you're doing it because of fear or desperation. So knowing calms you, it settles you, it brings you into this place of stillness where you can actually tap into the knower, which leads you into the right path, the right next step. I don't need to know the full staircase. What is the next step? And I show people how to trace their knower, train it so that they can trust it.
I like that. Trace, train, and then trust. What are some of the things that we would do, just to give us like one example? If I'm trying to make this decision, I have my knower. What do I, if I'm saying, okay, well, maybe someone proposed and you want to get married or whatever, how do you know?
Well, first of all, you have to get all the other stuff out the way.
And what's the other stuff?
We live in an attention economy. So every time you wake up in the morning, there are 700 companies that have a strategy for your next move, for your next emotion, for your next feeling. So you got to get still first. Don't pick up the phone. I get it.
Where are you? Are you in the bedroom? In the bedroom looking and judging? Because I know I roll right over. Because a lot of us do have the cell as our
clock.
Our clock. Yes.
But that's a problem. So you got to have a strategy. If the companies have a strategy for you, you got to have a strategy for yourself so that you won't be their strategy.
That is true.
So get you an old school regular digital clock. Put it over there so your phone is not your clock.
Right.
And when you wake up, take a minute, 5-7 minutes. Get still. There's a passage I love. I'm a pastor, so I love the Bible. There's a passage that says, be still and know God. So I have to get still so that I can know what's for me, not what's trying to manipulate me.
How do you do that? Like, how do you start, like, getting your mind right even to do it? Because I know, like, this is hard for me. I'll set the doggone alarm and be like, okay, I'm going to get up right when it goes off. Snooze, snooze. What's one thing that has helped you be able to really get going and start that first step?
I'm going to give you 2 things. I go to bed. A young brother be in bed, 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Come on.
I'm in the bed. Why? Because it's all about strategy.
Right.
I'm in the bed early because my strategy is I'm going to get up early. I don't want to have to hit the alarm. Now, some days you can't, but for the most part, this brother is in bed by 8:30, 9 o'clock, so I can get up in the morning. Again, I don't grab that phone right away. I take a minute, I get still, and then I also have an identity statement.
What's that? Is that something that's changed every day, or is that just what you focus on for that one season?
It is who I am.
Oh.
I have a 12-point identity statement. I talk about it in the book. I even have, I tell them what it is so that I am defining myself, my identity, before I get out there and then society try to tell me who I am, or more importantly, who I'm not.
Right.
So you got to have you have to have a strategy. Go to bed, and a lot of times we go to bed, don't do that.
Again, what are you doing? Are you stalking? What's happening?
I'm trying not to, but because it's all of us. It's not just you.
Yeah.
It's all of us. Listen, that thing was designed to control us.
I know.
So for me, stillness is resistance. I resist being controlled by big business and little business at this point. You know what I mean? And so I get still. I read my identity statement. I settle myself. I tap into my knower so that I can start flowing. And just 5 minutes, 7 minutes to start the day will change everything.
Wow. Give me some of the things that you may have personally been uncertain about that have helped shape you, and even maybe one of the stories that you shared in the book.
Well, I'll tell you what ill-shaped me. Because a lot of times we're ill-shaped. It's not, sometimes we want to be shaped, but we have to deal with what ill-shaped us first in order to be shaped properly. So I've got a chapter in the book called Misknowing, and it's called Trauma's Secret Symptom. And I didn't realize this. When I was 16 years old, I got shot in a drive-by shooting.
Wow.
It took my body months to heal. It took my trauma decades to heal.
Right.
And that trauma produced what I call this misknowing, where you think you know something. You might call it discernment or hypervigilance. You don't trust nobody, and you think it's wisdom, but it's really not wisdom. It's your trauma masquerading as insight, as intuition, and it keeps you from what life has for you. And so that's one of my favorite, passages of the book. And because a lot of people, I'm telling you, they'll tell you all day, I just got a feeling. But you got a feeling about everybody. Everybody named Mama, you got a bad feeling about. Maybe you're the common denominator in all those things.
That is true. That is true.
And so we have to undo sometimes. We always talk about becoming, but I've learned that you have to unbecome in order to become.
That is true. All right, so if you say that they have trauma and they have to identify it, what's one of the steps that helps them identify their trauma?
Honesty. To really be honest about what's going on. What do you feel when you are, quote unquote, feeling?
Yeah.
And then you need to have people around you that love you, that see you. And I'll be honest with you, and especially and I've been in a lot of worlds, obviously business and church and all that kind of stuff, but the church world, we're just now waking up to the fact that therapy is actually not the devil.
You know what? Because people were brought up that way. I'm a church kid. I grew up in the church, and that was, we got to pray. But you can pray and also go to therapy. My pastor even says that, seriously.
Yeah, just like you're going to pray and then go to the doctor. You don't just pray and let the ambulance pass by you and you bleeding out. I'm going to pray, oh, God, I thank you for the ambulance.
Absolutely.
And move on. So tools, again, trusted people around you, being honest, being self-aware. And then what will it hurt? Therapy won't hurt. We just are uncomfortable. So being willing to get uncomfortable in order to get healed.
Right. I also think it's getting to a point in life where you're ready to do that, because you can keep talking to somebody. Even for myself, I think I know it all the time. Well, not all the time, but
you know a lot.
I know a lot. You know a lot. But it has taken me a minute to say, hey, this is the issue.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. And I always say that I'm always going to keep it 100, but you have to keep it 100 with yourself as well, and be ready for that change to really sink in, to make the difference.
Isn't it true that the more you know, the more you realize, or the more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know?
You don't know nothing.
You don't know nothing.
You don't know nothing.
My next book, this book is called Knowing. My next book is called I Don't Know.
Yes, and then sometimes you realize people were trying to tell you the real thing, and because they knew, and you're brushing it off. I know, as just a young professional, even some things maybe a mentor might have said, well, we do it differently now. I don't do it that way now. And then you come back and, they were right.
Yes.
I should have taken, notice or taken heed to what they said.
Absolutely. And that's why I call it knowing. It's not a static state. We're growing in our knowing, and we're tapping in and we're learning. Again, you got to unlearn.
Yeah.
I think about, I love the Bible, and I know this is not a Bible show, but I love the Bible.
Absolutely.
Everybody in the scripture that went on to become great had to unlearn some stuff. They had to get away from certain environments and certain things, and then they were able to become. So that's important. I think that unknowing is just as important as knowing.
Who is this book designed for?
It's for everybody, in particular those who are in transition. those who are trying to figure out what's going on, those who are anxious right now because everything is so uncertain. They don't know what to do. Am I safe? Am I not safe? Should I stay in New York or move to California or Dallas? Should I, is this relationship going to work? Anyone who is really desiring to have clarity in all of this foggy uncertainty.
That's who it's for. How did you find clarity? I know you guys made just a big transition right now, taking over the leadership of Potter's House in Dallas, you and your wife, Sarah Jakes Roberts. How did you guys work through that transition? Because that has to be huge. You had do you still have the fellowship? Where was it, in Cali?
Still have it there. Transitioned it to another leader. It's thriving, doing well. But for us, it all comes back to knowing. We didn't just do it because we thought it was a good idea. We had a knowing. Now, we got our knowings at separate times. She was a little bit more reluctant. She's got history, so she had to work through some trauma.
That part, yes.
And then once that trauma subsided, the true knowing came out. I didn't have that trauma, so I was able to tap in much quicker than she had. But it was a knowing. It was the same thing that has guided me to make powerful, life-changing, legacy-changing, life trajectory decisions. It was all because I learned how to tap into that knowing. And that's what I want people to take away from this book.
If you do this process and you trust your knower, and let's say that it doesn't turn out the way that you think it's going to or that you desire, what then? What happens next?
There's a chapter in the book called The Catalyst of Ignorance. And it speaks to a humility that we must have. So if someone is, they trust their knower and they moved and it didn't go, and you said something, that last phrase was everything, the way that they thought it should go. You have to trust. Again, I'm going to give you some more scripture. There's a passage that says, God says, my thoughts are not your thoughts, but more importantly, my ways are not your ways.
Yeah.
In other words, there are a number of ways to get to 8. Most people just think it's 4 plus 4 or 5 plus 3 or 6, but they are complicated and complex mathematical equations that get to the same way. That's how God is, because God is not just thinking about you. He's thinking about your children's children. He's thinking about your neighbor that you don't know anything about.
Right.
So the key is obey. You get rewarded for obedience. It's not, I'll be honest with you, the outcome ain't none of your business. Let's just ain't none of your business.
Right.
You just follow it. And then in the process of time, there's another chapter called The Unfolding of Knowing. When things ultimately unfold and you tally it all up, you'll realize that had I not done this, this wouldn't have happened. Sometimes it's not the thing. Sometimes it's the thing that leads to the thing.
Right. And you could actually kind of go back and look over your life, too, and see how that has worked. Or not worked because you did this or didn't do this.
Oh, I mean, how real you want to get?
Come on.
I 14 years ago, I went through a divorce, right? And this still small voice was saying, it's over. And I tried and I pressed through, but this still small voice said it was over. There are some things, it cost me some things for that to happen.
Yeah.
Well, if that wouldn't have happened, so many other things that have unlocked so many parts of my future that I knew was inside of me wouldn't have taken place. So sometimes that knowing will lead you to things that are disappointing. But if you trust the knower, the ultimate knower, you trust the plan that God has for your life, when it is all tallied, you'll realize, oh, man, you're such a strategist.
Come on. And it is about that strategy. Now, we were talking about who this book is for, but I saw baby girl Ella did the foreword.
She did.
How do you prepare your young people, your children, to understand knowing?
I got to tell you, she was born with it.
Really?
She was 9 years old. She was the one, she came to me and said, Dad, I want to write the foreword. First of all,
how does she know what the foreword?
That's what I'm saying. But look at what you just said. How did she know?
Yeah.
See, children have an innocence to them. They haven't been tainted and tarnished by, life's disappointments and trauma and various things. So I sensed that when she came to me with that knowing, it tapped into my knowing. Now, you know how it is. A foreword is supposed to be someone with a big name, a subject matter expert, but I had a knowing, and now it's a point of conversation in all of my interviews. And people, we were at a book signing the other day, they wanted her to say, they didn't want my signature, they wanted her signature. So,
a star is born. But no, but it shows also, just by you having her do that, I'm sure the people who buy the books will say, his 9-year-old daughter wrote this, and sharing it with their kids as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so for me, it's trusted. for me, it's about trusting. You're in proximity. You know, you're. I think the children are closer to God and clarity than anybody. You know, now life happens, they start dealing with us adults, and all kind of stuff happens. But I think fundamentally they're closer, and so
because they have that blind trust, that blind faith, that blind trust,
yes,
that it's going to work out, that someone's going to catch them if they fall.
Yes, the imagination hasn't been stifled.
Yes,
stifled, and so it was a perfect choice. And when you read it, her words were brilliant.
I saw.
Yeah, they were absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
You know, and those were her words.
Really?
Yeah, and she read the audiobook and everything. Those are her words. I didn't give her words. Those are hers.
Go ahead, baby girl. That is awesome.
Yeah.
So we'll be getting her book soon too, huh?
Yes, indeed.
All right, so I saw that you're putting a 90-day clarity guide with this. What is that? Is this a new challenge that we need to do to accompany knowing?
You know, I think so. We actually introduced it in January because we wanted to start the year with clarity. And for us, it just gives you practical steps to get clear. Again, attention economy, so much is coming at us. And clarity is important because your life is the sum total of your decisions. The clearer you are, the better your decisions, the better your decisions, the better your life. So it's almost like a cleanse. I think that people ought to do it several times a year, but just 90 days to get clear. And it takes 90 days to get all of the fog out.
Right.
And to get established in your purpose and who you are and who you're supposed to roll with. It's a wonderful tool.
I think for me, the just getting still part, because I'm always moving here, hustling, but really zoning in and carving out that time on a continual basis.
You know, if you slow down, you can speed up with confidence. If you're willing to just take a minute, if you trust the fact that you won't fall apart if you slow down, but that you might if you don't. If you trust the slow, and that's what I'm talking about. The 5-10 minutes in the morning of slow.
Yeah.
Then you can run, but you're running with clarity and you'll go further, faster.
And that's all a part of knowing.
Yes.
Pastor Toure Roberts, thank you for stopping by. But wait, before you go, where can we find you? You have a podcast, you're preaching. When do you have time to be still? Okay, outside of the mornings though, but for real, when do you breathe?
In the morning, I have motorcycles. I like riding motorcycles.
Okay.
And really, pockets in the day, any chance I get, you know. So there's a ton going on. Wednesday night here in New York City.
Tonight.
I'm excited about it.
Yes.
Me and Leslie Oldham Jr. are sitting down to talk about knowing at the historic Abyssinian Baptist Church in Harlem.
Yes.
It's going up.
Do we have to have tickets to go? Or do you have to register? Or can we just pop up there with the book and be like, I have my book?
You can do a little bit of all that, but we encourage you to get tickets. If you go to toureroberts.com, you can get tickets there.
All right. And will you be doing any kind of speaking tour or anything so we can follow and see you?
I'm doing a tour indeed, and that's all on the website. I'll be in about 12 cities.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. Much success with the book. Not only that, but also continuing to plant and to, grow people in the faith. It's amazing.
Thank you,
shout out
Déja.
to you. Thank you.
Appreciate
That's how we do it on this Déja Vu show.